Egypt's opposition groups, including the banned Muslim Brotherhood, say government proposals on how to end the political crisis don't go far enough. Talks have produced more concessions from the government, but failed to break the impasse with protesters. And US President Barack Obama says there is now no turning back for Egypt. Middle East correspondent Ben Knight reports from Cairo.
Cairo might be looking more like its old self. But near Tahrir Square, there are still long lines of people wanting to join this protest. In the city, the banks are open, and Cairo's had its first traffic jam in over a week. But while Egyptians might be happy to see law and order back on the streets, that doesn't mean they have to like the officers.
Egyptians will tell you that their traffic police are corrupt and that the riot police are thugs. But the most feared and detested of all are the secret police. And in the past 2 weeks, they haven't gone anywhere.
Human Rights Watch says thousands of Egyptians have been detained by the state since these protests began.
It's very brutal. People are tortured. They receive electric shocks. They're often sodomized by their interrogators. They're beaten very brutally.
The organisation says this man, Egypt's new Vice President, Omar Suleiman, has himself been involved in torture in his years as head of military intelligence. Yesterday, Omar Suleiman sat down for talks with the Muslim Brotherhood, an opposition group whose members have frequently been imprisoned by his regime. The government is offering some opposition figures a place on a panel to try and find a way forward to free elections. The government's also promised that the foreign media in Egypt are free to work, but yesterday there were more arrests, including the crew from the ABC's foreign correspondent program. Reporters from the New York Times were also detained by Egyptian authorities and handed over to the secret police. The journalists say they were interrogated throughout the night and overheard protesters being beaten. They wrote,
"But our discomfort paled in comparison to the dull whacks and the screams of pain by Egyptian people that broke the stillness of the night." In one instance, between the cries of suffering, an officer said in Arabic, "You are talking to journalists. You are talking badly about your country. You are committing a sin. You are committing a sin."
Today, the US President said that change in Egypt is now inevitable.
Egypt is not going to go back to what it was. The Egyptian people want freedom. They want free and fair elections. They want a representative government. They want a responsive government.
President Obama also played down fears that the banned Muslim Brotherhood group would take over from Hosni Mubarak and expressed hope that any new Egyptian government would remain an ally of the United States.
And so it's important for us not to say that our only two options are either the Muslim Brotherhood or a suppressed
but you don't want the Muslim
Egyptian people. What I want is a representative government in Egypt.
Democracy, it's not. But even so, more and more Egyptians seem prepared to trust this government to keep its promise to change. Ben Knight, Lateline.